Very good morning, students. The previous class we have started the another life process, respiration, and we have discussed definition for the respiration, types of respiration we have discussed, and how glucose is breakdown in various organisms gives energy we have discussed. In that, how glucose is breakdown and gives energy in yeast cells, in muscle cells, and in mitochondria we have discussed. So what are they? Intermediate product and byproduct in aerobic and anaerobic respiration we have discussed. Today we are going to discuss about ATP. ATP. So what is ATP? So ATP means is an energy giving molecule. Energy giving molecule. So how ATP formed? So we discussed in the previous classes, when glucose is breakdown in the presence of oxygen or in the absence of oxygen in various organisms, the finally energy is produced. So the energy is in the form of ATP. The energy is available in the form of chemical substances, that is ATP. Okay, so it is an energy giving molecule. So it is generally, it is called as energy currency. Energy currency. Energy currency, because this ATP only will break down further and produce energy. That energy is obtained by our body cells and performing various activities. Okay, so that it is generally called as a energy currency. It is an important why ATP is called energy currency. Okay, and also we discussed in the previous year, mitochondria is called as a powerhouse of the cell. We studied why mitochondria called powerhouse of the cell, because the mitochondria only produce the energy. Okay, what is that energy? ATP. Okay, so now we are discussing about ATP, and it is also called as, or generally called as a energy currency. Now expansion. What is ATP? Adenosine. Adenosine triphosphate. Triphosphate. There are tri means 3. There are 3 phosphate molecules are there, like this. 3 phosphate molecules are there. So this is a triphosphate. Okay, how this ATP formed? So when the glucose is breakdown, then next intermediate product is pyruvate or pyruvic acid. Okay, after the pyruvate or pyruvic acid, ATP is produced. Let's see how it is formed. First, ADP is formed. What is ADP? Adenosine diphosphate. 2 phosphate molecules first formed. Then there is an inorganic phosphate, IP. IP means inorganic phosphate. With adenosine diphosphate, inorganic phosphate is added. Then it forms energy, that is ATP. Okay, so the ATP contains energy, that ATP should be breakdown. The ATP should be breakdown. So how it is breakdown? Again ADP and phosphate molecule. Okay, and finally it formed ATP. Again The ATP formed, when it is formed, when the glucose is break down, pyruvate is intermediate product, and then energy is produced. So energy is in the form of chemical substances, that is ATP. The ATP contains 3 phosphate molecules. So how it is formed? First ADP is formed. What is ADP? Adenosine diphosphate. 2 phosphate molecules only there. Again, another one inorganic phosphate molecule added. So how this inorganic phosphate molecules are added? There are so many chemical reactions occur. So another one inorganic phosphate molecules are added. So 2 plus 1, 3. So 3 phosphate molecules are there. That's why it is called ATP. So the ATP directly will not give energy. That ATP should be break down. How it is break down? Again ADP and a phosphate molecule. Okay. So why should be break down this ATP? In the terminal phosphate or end of the phosphate molecule, this phosphate molecule only contains more energy. So out of these 3 phosphate molecules, the terminal phosphate molecule having more energy. So that should be break down. So that's why the phosphate molecules are released. Okay, how this is formed? There should be a water is involved. Water is involved. So why should water involved? To break down the terminal phosphate molecules, water is essential. So with the help of or presence of water only, the terminal phosphate molecules are removed. Then energy is produced. Okay, so due to this reaction, there is a endothermic process is occur. What is endothermic process? Endo means inside. Thermic means heat. So during this chemical reaction in cell, there is a endothermic process occurs. What is endothermic process? The absorption of heat from the surrounding. The absorption of heat from the surrounding, that is called as a endothermic process. So the ATP is derived the endothermic process inside the cell. Okay, and the ATP formed and finally it is break down. Okay, and it produce energy. Okay, so like that ATP formed and produce energy. So when this ATPs break down, when this ATPs break down, it released 30.5 kilojoule per mole is released. Okay, so during this process 30.5 kilojoule. So it is a value that much of energy is equivalent. When it is equivalent? When the ATP's breakdown is occur, the time this much of energy is released. Okay, so actually this is in more to know. So in your textbook, more to know a column is there. So we cannot say the more to know topic will not come for board exam. So everything is based on our subject only. So you must study the more to know topic also. Okay, so these are very important in very short answer. Okay, what is ATP? What is expansion of ATP? How ATP formed? When which is involved to break down the ATP? How much of energy utilized? So like that question will be asked. So the more to know topic also important. Kindly you study that also. Okay, now uses of ATP. So we know already the ATP is only produce energy. The energy energy utilized for the various purpose. We studied already. Anyhow, again we'll recall. ATP uses or function. The first one is contraction of muscles. For contraction of muscle, ATP is needed. What is contraction? Contraction means shrinkage. Shrinkage. So the muscle should be contract and relax. Suringi viriyam. Chariya, the muscle should be contract, shrinkage. Relax is normal or becomes normal position. Okay, or expand. Okay, so when the ATP is involved, then only the contraction of muscle will occur. Then only it causes movement. Okay, the second function, protein synthesis. Protein synthesis. Sir, protein you are taking from outside only, through the food. Why should proteins synthesis in our body? So naturally, generally, in our cells, each and every cell is also involved in the protein synthesis, which is responsible for our body. Okay, so the protein synthesis also need ATP. And third one is conduction of nerve impulse. Conduction of nerve impulses. What is conduction of nerve impulses? The senses are there, the signals are there, the senses or signals are carried from one to another one place, one organ to another organ is takes place, or carried, that is also with the help of ATP. For the conduction of nerve impulse also need energy. Okay, so these are some important functions or uses or ATP. So many uses are there. These are the few examples. Okay, next one is, we discussed already what is aerobic respiration and what is anaerobic respiration. This anaerobic respiration is also called as a fermentation. So what is aerobic respiration? Oxygen involved in the respiration process, that is called aerobic respiration. What is anaerobic respiration? Oxygen not involved in the respiration process, that is called as a anaerobic respiration. Okay, this is also called as a fermentation. Don't forget it. Already I told you, just note it down in your textbook. Anaerobic respiration also called as fermentation. Okay, so in all organisms, that may be a plant or animals, in all organisms, aerobic respiration is occur because we have some respiratory organs. We take oxygen from the atmosphere and utilize for the respiration process and release carbon dioxide. Okay, in plants there are intercellular spaces. The plants contains more intercellular spaces. What is intercellular spaces? What is intercellular spaces? So, for example, these are the cells, plant cells. So, between the plant cells, there is a gap. So, this gap is called as a intercellular spaces. So, there are more intercellular spaces in plants. These intercellular spaces contains air. More air are filled. Okay, so that the plants gets gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide insufficiently because have more intercellular space. Okay, in plants, how it is happening? How the gases of exchange of gases occurs through the stomata. Through the stomata only there is a gases exchange occurs. Oxygen in CO2 out or CO2 in oxygen is out, like that. Okay, how it is occurs in the animals? We have respiratory organ. Through the respiratory organ, the gases or oxygens are enter in our body and utilized for respiration process, and at the end of the respiration process we get energy and also we released carbon dioxide. Okay, so how the exchange of gases or oxygen in or CO2 out, how the gases exchange occurs, at what basis it occurs? It occurs through the diffusion process. Diffusion process. You should know what is diffusion. Again, the exchange of gases that may be in plant or maybe in animal occurs through the diffusion. So what is diffusion? The spontaneous movement of molecules, spontaneous movement of molecules from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. This is a region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. So this is called as a diffusion. For example, the outside the body there is a more oxygen, but inside the body less oxygen. So the oxygen is moved from the region higher outside to inside. And carbon dioxide inside our body is high, in the atmosphere is less. So the molecule, the oxygen, carbon dioxide molecules are moved from the higher concentration, that is from inside to the outside. Okay, so through the diffusion process the gases exchanges are occur. Okay, another one important one, the direction of diffusion depends on, is very short answer question. Diffusion we discussed. Now direction of diffusion depends. The first one is environment. Depend upon the environment, the direction of the diffusion occurs. That may be outside or inside. And the second one is requirement of organisms. That may be a plant or animal. Okay, again, direction of the diffusion depends on, the first one is environment and the second one is requirement of the plants or requirement of the animal or requirement of the organism. So what is needed, oxygen or carbon dioxide? So according to the requirement only oxygen will enter or else CO2 released. Okay, this is important, very short answer. So direction of the diffusion depends on. Okay, kindly note down. at night. At night in plants. In plants at night. In plants at night, what will happen? There is a more respiratory rate. More respiratory rate. And no photosynthesis. Okay. At night in plants, there is a more respiratory rate. Respiratory rate is very fast because night time no photosynthesis occurs. So it takes more amount of oxygen and release CO2. Okay, when at night. So that's why our ancestors, our grandparents will say don't sleep at night under the tree because it releases more amount of carbon dioxide. If you sleep or if you stay under the trees for a long time, what will happen? We release that carbon dioxide, we inhale. So there is a deficit of oxygen. So because only we consume the carbon dioxide under the tree at night. So what will happen? Lack of oxygen, it cause some side effect or sometimes it leads to death. So that our grandparents or somebody will say that there is a host under in the tree, don't go there. So what they mean? No, they mean in night time there is a carbon dioxide released much by the trees. Okay, so that doesn't know the science, but they are telling that is a ghost. Okay, there is no ghost. So in the night time, respiration is occurs. Okay, so it releases more carbon dioxide. If you stay in the night time under the tree, we consume the carbon dioxide. So the deficit of oxygen, it causes death sometimes. Okay, so at night is happening, more respiratory rate and no photosynthesis. In daytime. So daytime what will happen? More photosynthesis. So less respiratory rate. So respiration will occur, but very less. But during the respiration, what will release? CO2 is released, no? The CO2 is utilized for the photosynthesis. So in daytime also respiration occurs always. Okay, without respiration there is no plants and animals. But in daytime the respiratory rate is low in plants because more photosynthesis occurs. So during the respiratory rate, some amount of carbon dioxide is released. Okay, that carbon dioxide is not released in the atmosphere, it is utilized for the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so in the daytime what will happen in the plants and night time what will happen in the plants. Okay, so based on this concept, many questions will arise. So understand this concept. Again, at night time in the plants more respiration occurs and no photosynthesis because no sunlight. In daytime in plants more photosynthesis occurs and respiration also will occur very low. Okay, so this is important concept. So during this photosynthesis, oxygen is released. So just remember the overall equation of the photosynthesis: 6 CO2, 12 H2O, C6H12O6 plus 6 O2 plus 6 H2O. So just remember always the overall equation. So the only the chemical reaction that release oxygen. So during the photosynthesis, the major event is release oxygen. Okay, glucose is also prepared, but the only chemical reaction is oxygen is released. Okay, So in the terrestrial animals, so what is terrestrial animals and what is aquatic animals? So terrestrial animals means the animals are stays on the plane, on the land, on the ground, call it as a terrestrial animal. So aquatic animal means the animals lives in the water. You know some aquatic animals and terrestrial animals. We are terrestrial animals. Okay, the terrestrial animals are takes oxygen in atmosphere. Okay, so we have some respiratory organ. With the help of respiratory organ, we take the oxygen from the atmosphere in the gaseous state. But in terrestrial animals, oxygen is dissolved in water. Oxygen is dissolved in the water. Okay, so that there is a respiratory rate is faster than terrestrial animals. Question will come. Why in aquatic animal respiratory rate is very faster than the terrestrial animals? Because in the aquatic animals, the oxygen is dissolved in the water. The oxygen is very dissolved in the water. Okay, so that there is a respiratory rate is very fast. Okay, the oxygen is there in the water but it is dissolved. Okay, so the dissolved state of oxygen only the aquatic organism able to get. That's why the aquatic animals cannot survive when it come out from the water. Okay, when we enter or when we inside the water, we cannot stay long because we need oxygen always, but in the form of gaseous state. The aquatic organism also need oxygen always, but in the form of dissolved state. So that's why in aquatic animal, respiratory is very faster than the terrestrial animals because of the less and dissolved oxygen is there in the water. The question will come, why respiratory is faster than the terrestrial organisms? Important 3 more questions. And next one is, there is an activity six point six. Activity 6.6. So what telling this activity abdina? So how the oxygen intake by the aquatic animals, how it is happen? So it is given. Okay, and there is a one word, operculum and gill slits. So this is gill slits. This is an operculum. Okay, it's a gill slits and a operculum. So what is gill slits, sir? The individual opening to the gills. Individual opening to the gills. So we know what is gills. Gill is a respiratory organs of the fish. So this is a gill slits. There is an individual opening. Is a group of gills. Each gills have a individual opening. The individual opening is called as the gill slits. Okay, and what is operculum? The operculum is covers the all gill slits. This is a group of gill slits. The group of gill slits are covered by like this, call it as a operculum. Again, the gill slits means the individual opening to the gills. Is a respiratory organ for the fish. Okay, so this is a gill slit, this is a gill slits. And what is operculum? The whole gill slits are covered by a structure that is called as a operculum. Okay, you see the aquarium or fish tank. Just you observe very focusedly and minutely observe. Always the fish open and close, open and close continuously. So why it is happening? The water dissolved oxygen is there in the water. So when it is open, the oxygen rich water enter. Okay, through the mouth. First mouth, the water is entered. The water contains oxygen. Then it reaches to the gills. From the gills, the blood cells are carries the oxygen directly to the body. Okay, again you see the fish in fish tank. Often it is open the mouth continuously. So why it is open always? Because the water contains dissolved oxygen. So the dissolved oxygen is entered into the mouth and reach to the gills. From the gills, the blood cells are taken up the oxygen rich blood and transport to all over the body. Okay, here oxygen taken up by blood cells. Okay, again what is gill slits and what is operculum? The gill slits always occur behind the eyes. This is eyes, behind the eyes. The gill slits and operculum is located. And there is some questions. Kindly you take a textbook. There are some questions given. There are 3 questions. That we discuss now. The first question is activity 6.6. There are 3 questions just we discuss. Very important one. Are they timing of the mouth, opening and closing of the mouth, and gill slits, coordinated in same manners. So this is a question, the first question. Are the timing of the opening and closing of the mouth and the gill slits are coordinated? I told you already, just you observe the fish tank, okay, and always the opening and the closing of the mouth occurs coordinately or simultaneously. They are asking. Yes, the opening and closing of the mouth and the gill slits are coordinated in same manner. Why should be coordinated in the same manner? Then only oxygen taken up and the CO2 is released. So that's why that should be coordinated. Okay, this is important, very short answer. For some time from the activity also question will be asked. This is one of the question. So opening and closing of mouth and gill slits are coordinated in same manner. Yes. The timing of the opening and closing of the mouth and the gill slits are coordinated. The open and closing is alternately occur. So after yes, we have to write the question. That's the answer. It's an important one. And second question is, count the number. Count the number. See, count the numbers of tank. The fish opens and closes. Open and closes its mouth. Open and closes its mouth in a minute. Okay, again, count the number of times the fish open and closes its mouth in a minute. It is possible to count it. It's vary. Depend upon the fish. No, it is not possible because depend upon the fish. Depend upon the fish size. Sometimes fish are small, need less amount of oxygen. Sometimes the fish are huge in size, more reactions or more functions are occurs in the big fishes. So depend upon the fish sizes and activity. What activity? More activities are occurs in small fish. Less activities are occur in huge fish. More activities are occur. So depend upon the activities and the size of the fishes. The open and closing of mouth in minute will vary. It is not common for all the fishes. Okay, again count the number of times the fish open and closes its mouth in a minute. No, it's not possible. It is vary, depend upon the fish sizes and the activities varies. Okay, what vary? Open and the closing of the mouth, it is vary. Okay, so this is the second question in this activity. And third one is third question. Third question. compare compare this to the number of times you breathe in and out in a minute. Compare this to the number of times what this and open and closing. Breathe in and out in a minute. Okay, so we cannot compare because we get a sufficient amount of oxygen. We directly get the oxygen from the atmosphere. Okay, so the respiratory rate is normal. Okay, but it is not applicable in aquatic animals because the respiratory rate is very fast. Okay, so we cannot compare the count for the terrestrial animal and the aquatic animal because the aquatic animal respiratory rate is very fast because the oxygen is fairly low in the water. So that in aquatic animals respiratory rate is very fast than the terrestrial animal because of the oxygen is fairly low in the water. Okay, so this is another question. Okay, so as available of oxygen is much less in the dissolved from in water than open air. So it is very fast in the aquatic animals, not in the human being, not in the other animals. Okay, so this is another one question. Next, the oxygen is absorbed by the different organs. So we have respiratory organs, the nasal passage, lungs, trachea, these are there, alveoli, these are there. So, but this is not common for all the organism. Depend upon the organism, the respiratory organs are vary. So, what are the respiratory organs? Respiratory organs in various organisms. The first one is fish. So, what is the respiratory organ is gills. Is a respiratory organ. And second one is earthworm. Earthworm. What is a respiratory organ? Is moist skin. Through the moist skin is a respiratory organ. And third one is mosquito. Mosquitoes. What is the respiratory organ? Trachea. Trachea we studied. So not like this trachea. Here trachea means what? Air tubes. Air tubes. Not like our trachea. These are air tubes. So for mosquitoes, the respiratory organ is trachea or air tubes. Okay, and last one is dog. Dog. What is respiratory organ? Lung, because it's a mammal now. So the respiratory organ is lung. So the respiratory organ is very depend upon the organisms. Okay, so that's all. Today's class over. I hope you all have understood the classes. And a very important one, kindly follow the classworks, is very necessary, and also complete the worksheets. Not only biology, whatever you receive the worksheet from the various subjects, kindly you complete it. Okay, so this is very pandemic situation. We are often used to say, so you must to follow it. So don't go unnecessarily to outside. Wear a mask even inside the home also. Wash your hands frequently. Stay home and stay safe, and touch with us through online and offline classes. Thank you.